that there's just...
Hi, everyone. James Wesley here. Seth Rudetsky, my husband, is in the kitchen because he's cleaning up the spilled tuna juice that was in the trash can. That's right. And now he's getting his water. But we were already 2 minutes late. I see Leslie Uggams laughing. I see Dr. LaPook smiling. And there you have it. But it's all right. It allows more people to get on. Welcome to Stars in the House. Oh, I see David added live to it. That is true. There are a lot of live streams out these days, and none of them are really live. There's Seth Rudetsky. Hi, Seth.
Yes. We got a really great letter that I want to tell everybody.
Oh, okay.
Because we're pivoting now to national
NAACP
LDF. That's what it's called.
Yes.
I want to read this letter.
Legal Defense Fund.
Someone wrote, I want to thank you both for all you're doing. As a result of your show last night, I found a way I thought I could help bring change. My company will match my donations, and I knew the cost would qualify. So he made a donation, and his company matched it. So it would be great if any of you are considering a donation to think, does my company match? Because NAACP LDF will meet a qualification for matching donations.
Because they're on the list, like the corporate list.
So he made a match donation. So think about that tonight when you make a donation to get a delicious match.
Well, and speaking of donations, so last night during our show, someone donated. We had several donations that we know of because they forward the donations, et cetera, the donation receipt to us. So someone donated $1,000, which was amazing. And then right after the show, Seth got an email and someone had donated $5,000 to the defense fund, which is amazing. And I believe for a future show, she is going to do a matching.
That's what she's saying.
That's what she's saying. We're going to hold.
Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah. But you don't have to donate 1,000 or 5,000. You can donate whatever you want. And right down there is where you do donate. It's NAACP LDF Legal Defense Fund.org/Stars in the House. And then we can keep track. And by the way, once you donate, forward your receipt to starsinthehouse2020@gmail.com, and then I can have Ms. Uggams read them out loud.
That's right. So should I read this a little bit of what I'm going to read this. This is from NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund, because we have been for the last however many weeks since March 16th, raising money 99% of the time for the Actors Fund. And thanks to our viewers, raised over $350,000 so far and growing, which is amazing. But after the events in particular of the past week, Seth and I talked to our friends at the Actors Fund and told them what our wishes were, and they were wholeheartedly behind us switching and pivoting over. And like everyone else, we're still figuring this out as we go along and stumbling as we go along, and appreciate your patience as we figure out how to now not only address COVID-19 in our country, but all of the growing strife that is happening and pain.
And the fight for civil rights.
And the fight for civil rights continuing. So the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund is America's premier legal organization fighting for racial justice. Through litigation, advocacy, and public education, LDF seeks structural changes to expand democracy, eliminate disparities, and achieve racial justice in a society that fulfills the promise of equality for all Americans. LDF also defends the gains and protections won over the past 75 years of civil rights struggle and works to improve the quality and diversity of judicial and executive appointments. And it is a 501c3, meaning it is a recognized charity, so it is tax deductible and all of that good stuff. Now, before we bring on Ms. Leslie Uggams, we do want to bring on Dr. LaPook. Dr. LaPook was not on yesterday, but we were talking. He has to leave a little bit early today, but actually bring him on, and we have an agenda, as it were.
Yeah, our CBS chief medical correspondent and also chief medical correspondent for Stars in the House, Dr. John LaPook.
Hey guys.
Hi, Dr. LaPook.
Hi, Dr. LaPook.
How are you?
All right, hanging in, right?
Well, yeah, we all feel like we've been punched in the stomach, right?
Yeah, it's not been easy, but we'd love your take on these protests that are happening, which I do think are really important. And yet people are standing an inch away from each other.
And how people can basically protest in the safest manner possible, I guess, right?
Yeah. So I've been doing a very deep dive into how this is spread, what we know now about how the virus that causes COVID-19 is spread. It's clear. Most people are now agreeing that at least some part of it is from aerosolization, which means, we have the droplets which come out of your mouth, but they kind of fall by gravity within 6, 7, 8 feet, something like that in front of you. That's why the 6 feet. But then in addition, there is stuff that's smaller particles that floats out even farther. And that especially indoors, which explains, the choir, how 45 out of 60 people got COVID-19, even though nobody was coughing, nobody was apparently sick. It was just from the louder you sing, the more you get these little aerosolizations out there. It's, there's still some debate about it, but I think we're getting a growing consensus. So clearly when you're outdoors, it's safer because you have the currents and the winds, but still you're not immunized. And you still need that 6 feet of distance between yourself and the next person, even if you're wearing a mask. There are other suggestions that people make, like trying to make sure you're not downwind of somebody else. That's really hard. But I think in these protests, I know it's hard, but you want, to the extent that you can, try to maintain that 6 feet distance and definitely have the mask on, because the last thing you want to have happen is to see a spike in cases because of the timing of this, which comes right in the middle of a pandemic. And we know that the cases are increasing in many places throughout the country. So I think people have to really, I know it's one more thing to think about, and people are at the stage where they're thinking, oh, the heck with it. I'm going outside and I'm not even going to wear a mask. Don't do that. Wear the mask. We need you. And we need the people who you love. We don't want you getting infected and bringing back the virus to your grandmother or grandfather or a loved one, somebody else in the family. So I know it's hard. There are a lot of things that are going on right now, but keep this in mind.
I guess the question is, on a practical level, if you're living in a household, let's say a multi-generational household, and one of the younger members, let's say, says, I'm going to go out and protest, and they still wear the mask, but they're living with someone who's, I don't know, compromised or older or whatever. It's like, what do? Do you just always self-quarantine? Like,
no, it's
I don't know what
it says. When you come home, you have to wear a mask when you're out. When you come home, you have to wash your hands.
I mean,
but also, I think what you're bringing up is a great point, James, which is that there's no form of protection that's going to be 100% unless you're completely isolated. So when you're out there mixing with the world, one of the things that you have to think about when you come home is how vulnerable are the people who you're coming home to. And if there's somebody who's especially vulnerable, they're older, they have an underlying condition, obesity also, hypertension, diabetes, then I think you have to really think about staying away from them even more than just the 6 feet and the mask. When you're home and you're in an enclosed space and you're with somebody vulnerable and you've been out there in the world, you have to think that you could actually have COVID-19. You could be shedding it, spreading it asymptomatically, which we know happens a lot. And so you have to think, how am I going to protect that person? Indoors, one of the experts in this who I spoke to just yesterday at UC San Diego said, you want to have the windows open for one thing. You want to have circulation. People are thinking about UV lights to try to kill the virus and all sorts of fancy contraptions. But indoors is more dangerous than outdoors. But outdoors, you still need the mask. You need the 6 feet. Please, for the protesters, stay safe on every level. One of them being trying to avoid getting infected.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. LePook.
Always, right. As Alan says, wise advice.
That's right.
Thank you. We'll see you soon.
We'll see you soon.
Bye, Dr. LePook. And now for our main star, who for all I know is a doctor. Does she have some cool doctorate degree or something? You never know. I mean, she should have one.
And this is a part 2. I don't know, in all of the episodes of Stars in the House, have we had a part 2?
No, we never had a part 2.
No. So Leslie Uggams, you're our first part 2.
Dr. Leslie.
I'm a first.
Hi, Dr. Leslie Uggams. How are you?
I'm good.
I like your sassy mood lighting.
Yes, I have a little thing there to give a little. It's evening.
Okay, so you already told us in advance, but I know you have your dinner half prepped. So let's talk about what you started making. Go. What is it?
I'm making shrimp with broccoli and jalapenos and garlic with an olive oil dressing.
Is there pasta involved?
Yes, linguine.
Wow. And it's half done.
Just a prepping.
So as soon as this is
You
over,
can't have a cooked shrimp, you know.
oh.
So.
Okay, so basically, when the finale of this happens, you're out. You get it.
I'm back. I'm in the kitchen so that my husband is able to eat.
Love it.
I'm busy scratch.
So here's the deal. So we were talking yesterday. One of the things we talked about, which we didn't really finish, we were talking about Hallelujah Baby and how the role was originally for Lena Horne. She pieced out. She had a fight with Arthur Lawrence, typical. And then you were cast, and you'd never done ensemble on Broadway or anything. Your first role on Broadway was as a leading lady, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people I know that have been leading ladies or just leading people feel a lot of pressure that they have to lead the cast. Like, but you were so young and you didn't have that experience. So how did you know what to do to kind of be able to lead a cast and be a spokesperson? And what were you doing?
Well, I believe this to this day. You have to set the tone.
Exactly.
And if somebody is a bitch, it affects everybody. Because I've worked with some of those people. It becomes like a poison that happens, you know? And so my thing is, we're a team. We are a team, and we all got to be together. Otherwise, it makes the whole rhythm and everything not good. And I learned that when I was studying at the Actor Center, and we would do our little programs and things like that. If we were all not in sync and happy, it was not good. And I've been, in shows where it was like, oh God, do I have to go to the theater? Because it's not happy backstage. It's got to be.
Were you one of those people where you left your dressing room door open for people to come visit, or did you have a system for when you wanted to have visitors, when you're, the ensemble people and your co-stars?
Oh no, everybody came to my dressing room. I used to keep a big bowl of goodies right outside the door, healthy snacks. And, I had coffee and tea, and everybody would come in the dressing room. And when I was doing Thoroughly Wild and Millie, I remember Sutton was saying to me, she said, "You always have a lot of company." I said, "Yeah, this is the hang, We have fun, especially in between shows, and people would order their food and everything, and we'd be sitting on the floor, chilling."
So even with Hallelujah Baby, because Arthur Lawrence was really the head of the show, and he was a cranky. So were you sort of like the person that kept the cast happy because he was on the cranky side?
Well, the interesting thing about this show, Hallelujah Baby, we didn't see him much. He wasn't happy with the script in many, many ways because it didn't go as far as he would have liked it to go in the writing. So he was always feeling that it wasn't quite his best. And of course, when he didn't get nominated for a Tony, then he really was pissed.
What else is new? But he wanted it to.
He had 8 nominations, and he wasn't one of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But it was a lot of craziness. First of all, it's my first Broadway show, and I'm with Comden and Green, Julie Stein, and Arthur Lawrence, and Bert Chevallol. And Peter Gennaro originally was involved too.
Oh, wow.
But one day we're in rehearsal, and we had some fabulous dances, and Peter Gennaro, oh my God, this is so exciting. And one day, just before lunch, and the cast was called, and the next thing we know, they fired Peter Gennaro. I said, "How could you fire Peter Gennaro? He was too slow."
Really?
Yeah. I till this day, I have never gotten over that they fired him because he was too slow. They wanted to see more routines and more numbers done, and he was still creating on a slower pace than they liked. And so they wound up getting Kevin Carlisle to come in and do the show. And of course, a lot of the dancers, they were there because Peter Gennaro is, the to say that you danced for him. So we lost a lot of fabulous, special people because of that situation.
Did the actual cast members left when Peter Gennaro left?
A lot of the dancers, yeah, they had to audition. I mean, it was like at lunchtime, and who wanted to eat lunch after that? I was shocked, and I thought, okay, welcome to show business.
Did you think that you could get the axe?
I never thought about that. I was so thrilled to be doing this show, and plus my coach, my rehearsal pianist was Julie Stein. And he was wild and crazy because he would teach you something and then he would be singing it.
Anyway,
it was just a crazy time. It was a great experience, but it was tough also because it was during the time of a lot of things were happening with the civil rights.
60s, yeah.
And I remember we opened at that time. You went out of town to do a show, and we went to Boston. Mm-hmm. The lovely theater. I can't name it.
The Colonial,
right? Which was old when I went there. One of those kind of theaters. You were like, really? This is it? Okay. So what happened? That we got a lot of flack from the Black community about the show, because if you remember, she has a white boyfriend and a Black boyfriend that were vying for her attention in that show.
Wow.
And a lot of the Blacks in Boston, coming from Roxbury, they weren't happy. So we had to do a lot of talks with them. The after show talks, because in the beginning we were getting a lot of heat. The cast.
Did you get it in the form of reviews in Boston, or was it was all audience?
It was all young people who, like now, were angry. They had a lot of problems in Roxbury in the Black community there. And they were going through stuff, and politically, they didn't feel that our show was giving any heavy message. It was too much fluff for them, because really the integration part that comes in the show comes near the end, where you see one side is white dancers and the other side were the Black dancers, and they came together. And that was the heaviest statement, really, of the show, and people felt that it should have said more.
Leslie, were you part of those conversations with the audience members? You said after the shows they would have conversations. Listen,
some of them weren't even in the audience. They would come wait at the stage door.
Wow.
And have conversations with and absolutely, I was part of that, because it was all about Georgina, basically, what the script was. But I was lucky too, because the woman that played my mother, Lillian Heyman, I had known since I was 6 years old. So I was fortunate to have her to keep me grounded in a way, because she was very protective of me. But the best thing about that show, we used to have some fabulous poker games.
When? You're doing a show? At what point?
In between shows. Let me tell you, we had in my dressing room, and we have food set up and playing, some heavy poker. Do you remember Harry Rigby at all? Harry Rigby, who helped produce the thing with Ann Miller and Mickey Rooney.
Sugar Baby.
Yeah. Anyway, he was kind of like the talk-to person of the producers. So he would come around a lot, and he would come in my dressing room in between shows, and he'd go, "Oh my God!" And we Bobby Hooks and Lillian Heyman and some of the understudies, and we playing poker up until almost a half hour.
What would you play for? For money?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank God the police didn't come and raid the right in my dressing room. Gambling. Yes. Yeah.
So one more question about Hallelujah Baby. Did you feel the pressure of being basically this, I guess, the second Black leading lady on Broadway? I guess Diahann Carroll was the first. Did you feel you had this responsibility to represent the Black community? Like, what kind of pressure did you feel?
Yes, all the above, and somebody that I looked up to, and I remember when she was doing No Strings, fabulous Diahann Carroll, and I had seen that show, and so when I got my opportunity, I wanted to set a certain standard, because in the past there's been some people that did shows, and it was like backstage was, it was like people were cussing each other out and didn't care. It wasn't in their dressing rooms. They were shouting it down the steps,
Wow.
Yeah, and I always looked up to Diahann because she was such a beautiful woman. And my mother and I, after the tap dancing lessons, used to go to have hot dogs at Chock full of Nuts.
I remember that.
And they had the best pie. And so that was my treat after dance class. And we would sit there, and Chock full of Nuts had this huge window that was right there on 7th Avenue. And I would see every now and then Diahann Carroll walking to the theater, and I go, oh my God, she's so beautiful. Yeah, And so she kind of influenced me in wanting to do a show on Broadway. For my parents, that was it, that I had done a show on Broadway. Oh my God, it legitimized me especially to my father.
Wow, even after all that, even after all that TV.
Was she able to come and see you in Hallelujah Baby?
Diahann, no. Mm-mm.
That's
I don't remember her coming backstage, but we were friends, but she didn't come to see that show.
You have this song "Being Good," and what does it mean to you? Because I think the lyrics are so amazing. But how would you describe the lyrics to people?
For me, the song represented how, because of what's happening now, you have to be extra the best to make it. And that's what that song represents to me, is you can't be good. You got to be the best. There's a lot of pressure on you from naturally your fans who are African and American. And that statement there, Georgina was saying the same thing. I know I'm going to have to work harder than any white actors to make it happen. And I've always registered with that, because I was told, listen, girl, you're going to do this, you got to really go for it. Got to go for it.
And do you remember performing, because back in the day, Ed Sullivan would have these amazing 15-minute segments of musicals. Do you remember doing the Ed Sullivan Show for Hallelujah Baby?
I did it for Hallelujah Baby. I did it also just to do the show. And he was funny because Sunday is when he came on, and Sunday afternoon, we'd all be gathered sitting in the theater seats to find out who was still going to be on the show.
Oh.
Yeah. So, then they had the jugglers and people with talking puppets and comedians. And I remember I became dear friends with Toadie Fields. And,
I love her.
Yes. And every time comics were there, they didn't know whether they were going to be on, and a lot of them weren't. And my son-in-law, who was one of the producers, would come down and say, okay, goodbye. Yeah. I mean, Sunday afternoon, this would happen. So you could have been rehearsing a couple of days before, but that didn't mean that you were going to be on the show, because Mr. Sullivan, he had an office upstairs where he could see everything. And I guess he might have had some kind of window, but a lot of people were cut. They may have come back at a later time, but if he wasn't feeling you, goodbye.
So was it like one after another on Sunday afternoon? You would be doing your act, or it would just be over the last
Oh,
several
no,
days?
it would just, it'd be your one song, or a comedian had a 5 or 10 minute routine that they got to do on the show, and if you you better be funny, because if you weren't funny, maybe next Sunday I'll see you.
Did you ever get cut?
Never.
There you go.
But I did get to work with, I worked with the Rolling Stones on that show. That's how diverse the show was, because you have jugglers and comedians and big rock and roll people and theater people. And so I worked with the Rolling Stones on that show. And I'll never forget, the doorman said to me, Miss Uggams, you have, your cousin is here. I said, my cousin? So I looked, my cousin Alita. And it was mobbed because of the Rolling Stones. Everybody was, kids backstage and everything. I said, oh, hi, how you doing? And she said, I'm here to see the Rolling Stones.
Not interested.
I said, how rude. Yeah, I thought you came to see me. She said, no, I'm here to see the Rolling Stones. I said, see, there's a lot of people that don't all appreciate you.
Even relatives. Well, I have a clip of you on Ed Sullivan. First of all, I love your look. It's very Barbra Streisand. The hair, very like those 60s Barbara look. And you sound amazing. Here you are. This is Hallelujah, Baby. Let's watch this.
Am I strong enough? Is there time? Have I long enough? Gotta fly, and if I fall, that's the way it's gotta be. There's no other way for me. Being good just won't be good enough. I'll be the best on the field at
Yes.
I love that song. And you talk about the fact that it was Barbra Streisand. That was me. And Barbara and I did a couple of concerts together.
Wow.
And so I knew Barbara. But that was me. I just was born for theater. I just love theater, and to have this song to sing was quite something to bring the curtain down on the first act.
Yeah.
It was really something spectacular.
And I don't know if you know, but Vanessa Williams used that song to get into Miss America. That was her song.
Really? Wow, that's wonderful to hear. It's such a great song, and I know My Own Morning gets, people ask about My Own Morning, but then when they do Being Good as well, they do, oh my God. And I've had a lot of young kids come up to me and said, we put that in our repertoire. We love that song and it means so much to us. So it's a score that it still works.
Oh, yeah.
The music really still works. It's why not? It's Julie Stein and Compton and Green.
Yeah, I mean, my God, people of course know that their boat bells are ringing. Now, by the way, I'm getting these donations, but I'm gonna wait to send them to you. You know that
We'll tell people again.
So Jan is wondering if you ever sell. I can email these to you, Leslie, to read. Do you have your phone with you?
What do you want to do it on my iPad or?
I'm gonna email. Tell me if you get these, but I just want people to know Leslie's
because I shut the phone off.
Oh wow, you're so much
She's very professional, Seth.
Yes,
Leslie's a lifelong member.
On the bed. Okay.
You're a lifelong member of the NAACP, right, Leslie?
Since I was 6, they made me a lifelong member.
I love it. Okay, so I see if you get this email. Something I want to say. Do you remember ever performing with Dean Martin? Where did you perform with him?
Oh, he had a television show. I used to do his show all the time. He loved me. Yeah, he loved me. What a wonderful man. You know, the whole thing that he was a drunk was part of the mystique that he created. He was very quiet, private kind of man, really. And of course, when his son Dino died, he was never the same again. But I loved working with him. He was great, and I think I did about 4 or 5 of those shows. Yeah.
Well, I have a great clip of the two of you. Let's watch how fabulous this is. Here we go.
You know what's interesting about that? Beside the fact that Dean Martin, gee, he was so cute. Wait a minute, I think maybe I got your thing here. It was Lena Horne and Perry Como, when Perry Como had his show, and he and Lena touched and created such a scandalous thing because Perry Como had touched Lena Horne while they were singing a duet on the show. And the sponsors were like, oh my God, oh my God, my God. And here I am years later with Dean Martin, and we're all over each other.
It's interesting though. It's like, I mean, what are your thoughts about what's happening right now and people going out and protesting and also risking the COVID? I mean, do you have any advice because you lived through the 60s, man, you lived through it all. What should people be doing to make a protest but also stay safe?
Well, you know, I saw an interesting interview today with a couple who protesting, a white couple, and the commentator said to them, I mean, with all these crowds, aren't you worried, you know, what's going on with this pandemic? And they said, well, we're wearing our masks and we're willing to risk our health to march. And I was like, wow. And that really says something. And all I can say is try to be as safe as you can. But, you know, I grew up in Washington Heights. In fact, I watched Shelley talking last night. West Side Story, I was taken to see that musical by our school teacher at school. She took 10 of us to see. And I saw Cheetah Rivera and I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. You know, so I was living that. In my neighborhood, we had Puerto Rican gangs, black gangs, white gangs. And one night, I was telling my daughter this today, one night, summertime, and we're leaning against the car. All of a sudden, this whole crowd of people came up, guys coming up the street. And one of the guys I knew when I went to public school, he was in my first, second grade, Jose, and we were good friends. And he was part of them. And I said, Jose, what's going on? He said, hi, Leslie. And he just kept walking. And what they were doing, they were going to have a gang fight up at High Bridge. White gang, Puerto Rican gang. So when I saw West Side Story, I thought, oh my God, were they in my neighborhood when, you know, to see this? And so the thing about West Side Story, it told the story of people who wanted to be in America and some didn't. And people who were privileged to be in America didn't want to treat others, they call them, who wanted to have the opportunity to be able to come to a country where we had a democracy. So I understand with these people, streets, it just boiling over. You can take so much. And when you watch somebody that's being murdered right in front of you, I mean, it's the straw that broke the camel's back.
Right.
And so this is going to happen. The thing about it, though, it's the young people out there of all races marching with us as well. And if we cannot, after everything dies down, not go back to how it used to be, but if we start talking to each other. And I was forced to talk to others when I was going to PCS. I lived in a predominantly Black neighborhood. You know, white people were there, but that was it. And I got to meet other people and become friends with them. I never forget one of my dear friends, Lola Shumlin. Her father was a big director on Broadway. And she invited me to her house. And I remember going to her house. Now, I live on the 3rd floor at 164th Street, okay? Mm-hmm. And here I go to her house and has a man that opened the door, a doorman, and then an elevator that was like, oh my God, with, you know, wood paneling, and go up to the apartment and the door opens and we're in her living room already. And I said to myself, okay, this is what I want. This is what I want. Because living in the conditions that I was living in, and it was the best that my parents could do, it was hard. It was hard. You know, I was stunned when I went to my friend's house. She didn't have any cockroaches. I mean, I thought cockroaches was in everybody's house, you know, to be quite honest. So, you know, when you're forced to, you live on top of each other. And then, of course, we have this pandemic and we can't go out. And then people lost their jobs. And then that check that you said was coming still hasn't come yet. What do you expect? So then you see George being murdered on television. That was it. That was it. And it's going to take a while for people to calm down because they've got to finish this process. Can't just be that one policeman. It's got to be the other policeman. That's how it goes.
You know, Leslie, it's interesting because as a girl, you kind of had your foot in two different worlds. The one you grew up in Washington Heights, and then because how old were you when you started going to the school for what's the name for the performing
PCS,
arts?
Performing
PCS.
I was 8.
So it was two different worlds beginning at age 8, basically.
Let me tell you, when I got off my street on 164th Street, I was a completely different person. Because now I'm in my neighborhood and this is how we are and how we act and everything. I'll tell you a funny story. One of my friends was named Hella. She was Mary Martin's daughter.
Oh, wow.
And she was going to PCS because, you know, Mary Martin was doing at the time Peter Pan. Okay. So all the kids that were in the show were at the school. And so I invited her to my house and we became very close. And so she had a woman who was like a governess with her. And so we brought her up to 164th Street around here to my house. We had a great time. And then we came out of downstairs. It was a beautiful day. And my whole neighborhood was gathered around the stoop because this white girl, not only was she a white girl, but she was dressed, you know, uniformly and everything. And Hella was stunning. And so everybody was like, wow. And so I had a park that was across the street and we walked to the park and we had a great day. The governess was hanging out with my mother going upstairs and welcome to my home. This is my neighborhood and everything. And she had a great time, but she got to see how I lived, you know, and that's why people don't understand that we have families. I grew up in a neighborhood that had 10 children, 13 children, you know, and they all live together. And when you have no money and you lose your job, what do you expect? I mean, you explode. There's a rage there and you can't explain it. And your helpers, there's nothing you can do about it.
You know, just on a side note, I just saw a comment come up. We were talking yesterday about you playing the lead in The Boyfriend and how normally a white woman played it and then you played it.
Yes.
Broadway, the original lead of Sheila was white. And as far as I know, this is the first time it ever happened. The first replacement of a white woman with a black woman was in Hair, and it was Melba Moore. And look who is watching the show right now with us, Melba Moore. Hello.
Oh, I love her. I love her. I love her. That's my girl.
Oh my gosh, that's history. My God, having the both of you here is just thrilling.
Yes.
Hi, Melba. You know you're going to be on the show next.
Melba, you got to come on the show.
That's right.
Yes, I'm recommending it, Melba. You'll have such a great time.
Oh my God, we love it. Now, by the way, yesterday we talked about Sing Along with Mitch, but I didn't have any footage of it. How old were you when you did that again? 17?
17.
Well, look at the confidence. What'd you say?
We shot it in Brooklyn.
You were all over the city, Washington Heights, Midtown, Brooklyn.
Well, it's interesting because when we were talking to Leslie yesterday, I don't know if you saw some of the comments, but they were saying for Black families that they otherwise did not like. They only watched it because of Leslie. Otherwise, they didn't really like.
They didn't like the show,
but they liked you, and that was why they watched.
Yes. Well, you know, the music was kind of square. You know, it was follow the bouncing ball.
Okay.
And so it was very vanilla, and I was a chocolate flavor that came in there and gave it some oomph.
Here, watch this sassafras. I think this is Sing Along with Mitch. I hope it is. Here we go.
She got a list of passengers that's pretty big, and they all want lift to Brown Hotel. 'Cause lots of them been traveling for quite a spell, all the way from Philadelphia. Topeka and the Santa Fe. All the actors in Topeka and the Santa
Fe.
Now, remember yesterday I was telling you how they were trying to get me off to Sing Along with Mitch?
Yep.
And they said at one time, well, can the sing-along men not touch her? And so I'm watching that number. They must have drove them crazy.
You have such a good attitude. I have another thing I have to ask you. So you're in the 60s, which it feels so, you know, what's happening now feels so much like that. Did you know any great civil rights leaders? Did you ever get to connect with any of them back in the 60s? Or were you too busy?
Well, no, I had met Martin Luther King.
Oh my God!
And the first person that I voted for was JFK. 18, I was so excited I was going to be voting, and he was young, and you know that whole thing. And I wound up doing quite a few things at the White House, and so I met Harry Belafonte. Who, you know, is still an activist, and Josephine Premise, and they kind of took Graham and I under their wing.
That's your husband, right?
Yes, my Australian husband, 54 years. So we got a lot of conversations, you know, because my husband came from a whole different world, and I was representing, you know, certain things, and they would have these wonderful soirees where they had different people that would come who were involved in civil rights, and you get to meet them. Sidney Poitier was, you know, also a part of that, and so because I was at that time, I was doing, you know, the show. And so many things were happening, and I was trying to find out how to be active and, you know, what you represent and those kind of things, because I represented, according to America at that particular time, being on Sing Along with Mitch, I had to watch my P's and Q's, because if you did anything, then the entire race was ruined, which is amazing. Now you can do anything. Nobody cares. But if you belch back then, it was like, oh my God, she represents, see, they all belch, you know, that kind of thing. So I was living, and I understand how a lot of these young artists, you have a lot of angst because you're trying to do what you love to do, but at the same time, you represent a lot of people. And so it was hard, you know, it was hard. It was 17. It was hard.
So much pressure.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about civil rights, but of course, probably the greatest civil rights piece, TV piece, was the brilliant miniseries Roots, which you were so fantastic in. And I guess my question is, first of all, how did you get the role of Kizzy? Was it, you were so famous at that point? Did they just write it for you? Were you offered it? How'd you get it?
I have to tell you a story.
Good.
You got time?
Yeah. Yes, we do.
I saw a television show that Dinah Shore had in the afternoon, and she had Richie Pryor, and he said he brought on a friend of his who had written a book, and it was called Roots. And I was fascinated when he started telling about, he decided he was going to go to Africa. He wanted to know from where he came. And so he said after that they were going to make a series on NBC about this book. And I was thinking, oh my God, first of all, my name is Uggams. Where did that come from? And I'd love to be a part of that situation. Later on, when my husband came home, I told him about, hey, you know, I saw this, blah, 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 blah. And so I went on the road to play Denver. My opening act was David Letterman.
Wow.
And I was there for 2 weeks. And when I came back, I had an audition for Roots. And so I went in, and that's the first time I ever did this, James and Seth, in my life. I went in looking African looking. I had the dashikis were big then. So I wore that dashiki, big earrings and things like that. And I went and I auditioned for the casting director and one of the regular directors. And they gave me a script and they said, we want you to come back tomorrow and pick the part you want to play. They gave me 3 scripts. And I thought, oh, these people don't know what they're doing. I never heard of this. I went home and I'm not making this up. I went home and I read the scripts, and then Kizzy was the last one I read. And I went, I want to play this part. And so the next day I went back again and I read for them, and they were kind of like looking. And then there was a lot of whispering going on and stuff there. And I okay. So I found out eventually that I had gotten the part. But the only thing they were worried about that Ben and I wouldn't look like his mother. So they wanted to do a screen test for when she gets older. And so I went in at 9 o'clock in the morning and had my makeup done. And from 9 to 5 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 white men with a hairdryer and some glue were trying to put wrinkles on me so I could look like I was 80. Now I get dressed in the costume and they take me to the set, and Stan Margulies, he looked at me and I said, oh, I'm not getting this one. I look like a mummy. A mummy. And I was like devastated. And I was in tears driving back to the house. And I said to Graham, I'm not going to get this part because the makeup people didn't know what they were doing. And they were squeezing my skin with glue and all like that. He said, calm down. I'm going to find out who did Cicely for Jane Pittman.
Oh, because she aged like 100 years.
Yes. So he found out who it was. We called him Stan Winston, the great Stan Winston. And Graham said what needed to be done. And he said, I haven't heard about this project. And he said, well, come on over. I swear to God, the man didn't know us from Adam. We go to his house. We talked about it. And he said, okay, I'll do your screen test again, because they were going to give me another screen test, another chance. And he did the makeup. And when I walked on the set, they went, you got the part. And he wound up doing the makeup the rest of the part.
Wow.
Oh, how wonderful. By the way, this is you as young Kizzy, as we can see, by the way, looking 15 years old.
Exactly.
And then here's old Kizzy.
Okay, I have this picture. The the photographer gave me this picture, and Stan Winston said, "This is how you're gonna look when you get older."
Oh, by the way, you don't. You actually look 30 years older in this photo.
That's right.
I said, huh.
You always say, huh?
And it was it's in the office. So taking no chances.
You got keep it lifted, lady. Keep it lifted. Okay, please tell everybody, because I remember you telling me about why Roots wasn't done every week like it was supposed to be done. It's supposed to be done like every Monday night, right? For like a 5-week period or something.
Well, what happened was that when they finally put it together and they took it to the head of ABC, he looked at it and he said, "This is awful." He said, "Who wants to see a whole bunch of Black people?" So he said, "I'll put it on every night so we can get rid of it."
Wow.
And they did.
So he did it every single night so it would blow off. Oh my God.
The first night, the people went crazy. And each night it got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then, but he took the credit for it when he wanted to get rid of it. He said, "Oh yeah, this is a new thing. We're calling it the mini-series."
The bad acting. I love it.
Oh yeah, we were talking about this.
What did Anne Margaret tell you? Didn't she say something about her act had to be?
Oh, I was in Las Vegas rehearsing Guys and Dolls at one of the hotels, and when Roots went on the first night, and I wasn't in it the first night and that stuff and everything, and then the next night, I get a phone call. Anne Margaret was playing at the Hilton, and I knew Anne, and so she said, "Leslie," she said, "we had to change the hours of the show." I said, "What?" She said, "Because nobody's in the casino. Nobody wants to come here. They're all watching Roots." And I thought, really? And so the shows would change. The casino, a few stragglers would be there, but they were all watching Roots, and you could not get room service. Wow. If you didn't order it by a certain time, you were not getting room service because people were in the rooms. Then people were putting up signs in their restaurants and their bars saying, "We got a big screen, you can watch Roots." And the great thing that happened was on the East Coast here, but I was living in California then, there was a blizzard, which helped keep the people in their house.
Uh-huh.
And then they put this on, and then people were like, "Oh my God, this is great." I mean, the gods were with us.
Wow.
It's so great. I have this one scene. Oh, we want to say.
But we just want to add. I mean, well, you can show the scene, but let me know. What was the reaction? Because there's no way you could have expected that. No one could have. But I mean, what was some of the feedback that you got from other people in the Black community?
Yeah,
they were so excited to have a story that's the truth about how Black people got here in the first place. Because they don't tell much in the history books that we have here to educate people. And this, you saw how people lived in Africa. They were queens, they were kings, they had a life. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, you're abducted and put on a ship where half of the people died. And so this really meant a lot. And I was flown to London, and I got a special award, and it's with people who were from Africa who were living in London. And I was so surprised when they told me, they said, "Oh, Roots, at last people could see what we come from." And I thought, I wonder that Roots just touched even them that much.
What a legacy. I just got an email from Terry Wall. "I was a casting director on Roots and will never forget seeing the dailies of you crossing out Toby on the gravestone and writing Kunta Kinte. Amazing work."
Yes. It was so beautifully written. It was the first time that you'd be on the set, and if something wasn't right, maybe dialogue-wise or something, they take the pages and go back and write something better. I had never seen that ever before. Or how many wonderful Black actors and actresses were doing this show and being showcased, that a lot of people didn't realize how fabulous we are out there. People that you might not know their names. And so it was a great opportunity. And of course, we had Alex. Everybody loved Alex
I was
here.
going to ask you about him. Was he on the
Haley.
set every day?
He practically, he was such an interesting man and such a calming influence. There was something about being on the set. I came in like 5 weeks after they had been shooting the stuff on an island, and everybody loved him. Everybody loved him, and it was an atmosphere that was loving the whole time. And we knew we had something special, but we had no idea it was going to be like that. But it was that kind of situation, and he was a dear man, dear man.
It's a brilliant book too. Here's this scene where you show that Sandy Duncan, your best friend, but not really, has taught you how to read and write. And your mother basically says, if you learn how to read and write, they're going to sell you. And she says, you're not allowed to. It's so devastating because it shows how your education was held back. Oh, it's just devastating, but it's brilliant. Watch.
You got to get up early before daylight, kids. You see to it Missy Ann's old room be ready for her.
Yes, Mama.
And you see to it that them andirons be polished up and shiny and... What's that?
They's letters spell out my name. Missy Ann showed me when we used to play school. And she showed me about reading and writing. That's a Kizzy. K-I-Z-Z-Y. Oh!
Don't you never do nothing like that again.
Oh,
Quite a scene. The fact that you had to be stupid, can't be allowed to learn how to read and write.
man.
Yeah.
Did we find out that we can watch it again? Did you research that?
Yeah, you can watch, because we're going to watch it again. You can. Well, at least I know on Amazon Prime you can.
Yeah. It's something to see, and it still holds up. It still holds up. It was, I think, the hardest scene though for Sandy was when they take me away in that wagon.
I was a little kid, and I still remember. Oh my God.
And after we finished shooting that scene, first of all, I almost passed out because I was so emotional. Sandy said to me, and we had been friends before, she said, Leslie, if I had known really what I was playing, she said, I don't think I would have ever taken this part.
Wow.
Because people hated her. Just hated us in that moment, you know? And it helped that I have been friends with Sandy too.
Yes. The connection. Someone just commented, Roots taught me more about slavery and the heart and soul and spirit of the Black culture than I ever learned in high school. What a legacy, man.
Yes,
And-
because we're not in the history books here. We're like a footnote in history books, and which is a shame. Dion and I had talked about that for years, where the educational system is still using those books from Texas, and they don't enough people who are of color who have contributed incredible things in these books. So therefore, white students don't know anything about us, really.
Right.
Thank God for something like Roots. You know, on my Facebook today, you get these sort of anniversaries, and it said 1 year ago today, you were giving an award to one of my Facebook friends, Glenn Scarpelli. Do you know Glenn Scarpelli? I guess you gave him an award.
My buddy.
How do you know him? From One Day at a Time?
No, well, I knew, of him, but Peter Marshall and I had a television show in the afternoon called Fantasy. And we used to give houses, connect families that hadn't seen each other, games where you could go in and with money flying and you catch so much money. I mean, we did everything, but we also had the Fantasy Spotlight where we also showcased people who had dreams of what they wanted to do. We would give them their fantasy. And Glenn Scarpelli was one of the young Turks, because from One Day at a Time, that would be on the show and handle the young stuff. And we got to be very, very good friends. I was just talking to him for my birthday. We talk all the time.
I love it, but he's in Arizona, so you don't ever get to really see him that often, right?
Yes, we see each other. He comes up here, and in fact, I was supposed to do something. They were going to have a Roots festival but I got a movie. Which and we couldn't change the date, and there was no way I could get from Sedona to where we were shooting in Oklahoma City.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, since you didn't get to see him then, maybe you want to see him now. Hi, Glenn.
Look at you are too much.
Seth and James reached out to me today, Leslie, and they said, "Come on and surprise Leslie." I'm like, "Of course I will."
Seth, and James, he has the most beautiful home, and that's Sedona. It's like paradise. It's so beautiful.
He invited us. We're done.
I'm telling you,
all of you.
Yeah.
About to say, you'll have to be there. You will all have to be there at the same time.
That would be fun. That would be a lot of fun.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
And then, Leslie has to bring Danielle and Justice, her kids, and the whole family too. So that I was just talking to Justice yesterday, as a matter of fact, Leslie.
Oh, great. Well, let me tell you, we used to get into trouble because we would go and do some remotes, and the producer, he was not feeling us when we got together. Because we would be laughing and joking and carrying on, but we had a great time. But we were troublemakers together.
As soon as we met, Leslie, it was like the two of us knew each other our entire lives.
Yeah.
And we used to giggle like schoolgirls.
Yeah, exactly. It was crazy. And I love his mother. She should have had a show.
Yeah. She's larger than life. She's in Staten Island.
She's fabulous. We saw her last summer, and she's just too much.
She's really, really fun, and I just love you so much, Leslie. I'm just so happy to see you again. We did just do a Zoom birthday party for Leslie a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, we had a good time.
It was really fun. Get to meet her whole Australian family, which I did.
Yes. Yeah.
That was really fun. But I also want to say, just to brag about Leslie, two things I need to say. First of all, she was the first African-American woman ever to win a Daytime Emmy for Best Daytime Host. So Oprah Winfrey did not get that. Leslie Uggams is the first African-American woman.
That's true.
For fantasy.
Yes. And the funniest thing about that, when I was nominated, Peter Marshall, my buddy, turned to me and he said, "Oh, you've been nominated." He said, "But don't worry, you won't win." And when I won, Peter said to me, "I can't believe it." He said, "No woman has won." He was fun. It was funny.
It's really
so it wasn't because you were black, it was because you were a woman? He didn't think you'd win?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because that, those kind of shows were male dominated. Yeah.
Wow. Busted. And Glenn, what else did you want to say about Ms. Uggams?
I know. I also want to say that, I've worked with so many people in my life, and one of the things that made Leslie so special to so many, and everyone that works with her says this, is that what I learned was how to have a role model that can be famous and kind all at the same time. Leslie truly knew everyone, every person, the person that brings you the coffee, my name, and how's your mother, and then did your grandmother go to the show, and like on and on and on and on and on. So this is a woman who's so down to earth and so kind. It was such an incredible role model for me, because I've also worked with some divas. When you're in show business, you come across a few. And Leslie certainly is not, and that's why we just resonated. We've been lifelong friends.
Yeah,
I met her when I was 15, and here we are. I still,
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
We're still hanging.
We're still hanging. We were gonna do the tribute to Roots for the Sedona International Film Festival, which I'm involved in here in Sedona, and that didn't work out this year, but we're going to, because I watched all 11 and a half hours on Amazon Prime over the holidays. My husband, Jerry, and I watched for that. And it's just so intense, and it's so profound, that show, that it's just so incredible. Everyone needs to watch it now.
Right.
Yeah. Especially now.
Especially now. It really is. And Leslie, when I was just listening to you guys, when you were talking about your friend Mary Martin's daughter that came, Ella, because we both went to PCS. Both Leslie and I are alumni of PCS also. So that's
yes.
But when you were talking about that, I was thinking about Kizzy's relationship with Sandy Duncan in Roots. Too.
Yeah.
Yeah. There really is that kind of similarity. Did you ever resonate with that?
Well, the thing is with Hella, she was very sheltered in a way. She was her parent. I mean, basically, the parents lived in a hotel because Mary Martin was always doing something on Broadway.
Right.
And so, therefore, she was with a governess, even And so, our friendship became a situation where one of the teachers said to me, "Can you kind of help her out?" And I said, what do you mean? I mean, I'm just a teenager myself. What do you mean? And because she was having some struggles, and I just embraced her, and she embraced me. And one day the teacher came to me and said, "She's a whole different person, a whole different person." It was always there, but it's hard when you're a celebrity's child too. Mm. Because people have certain expectations about you, and they judge you, and I've never judged anybody. So I love people,
You did such a great job raising Danielle and Justice. I have to say,
they're the best, aren't they?
They really are. They're just incredible people. I would go to Leslie's house when we were shooting because I'm kind of their age. Aren't Danielle and I like really? Yeah. So Danielle and I also connected. So it was always fun because I could always hang out with the adults, and then I could also hang out with people my age. So I would have coffee with Leslie, and then I'd go in the pool with Danielle. And I used to come over and hang out, and we had sleepovers and all kinds of things. And we had the house in Beverly Hills and those.
Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah, really, really, really.
Oh, it's so sweet. By the way, someone just commented, Leslie.
Yes.
I vote for third night with Leslie Uggams.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I'm going to close with this clip, but there's really so much. We
didn't even cover everything.
We have TV show reunions. We need to have an Empire reunion with you at the helm. So we need to talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll be fun.
Because you play a whack ass on that. We'll talk about that later.
Listen, I surprised myself.
You channeled it pretty quickly. Okay.
Felicia Rashad said to me, "I didn't know you had that in you."
Let's give her a script. I'm going to show this last clip. I didn't realize you once did a big special with Julie Andrews. What was it like working with her? I love her.
Oh my God, I love her. We had such a good time. We did it in London.
Oh, wow.
The Muppets were guest starring too, and she couldn't have been sweeter. It was fun, when we were rehearsing the dance numbers together, and she couldn't have been nicer. And her husband, I can't think of his name now.
Blake Edwards.
Yeah, Blake Edwards. We were in the studio doing some musical stuff and everything. He turned around, he said "Hello, I lost you." What happened?
Were you talking to us?
Yeah.
Yes, I lost the picture.
Oh, you did? That's weird.
We can see and hear you totally fine.
Yeah, I totally see you.
Okay. Well, anyway.
Yeah, we can hear you. You look great.
You can hear me. Anyway, So he turned around and said to my husband, he said, I can't stand this. He said, because I'm not in control, because he's used to directing and everything, and he couldn't direct us when it came to the music.
Yeah. No, I read her autobiography. He wasn't the most pleasant.
No.
I found this great clip of you. You got to see. If you can't see now, I got to see later. But it's you and Julie. By the way, you're so perfectly matched. Like you have like the same body. Your dancing is so similar, and you like kind of. It's interesting. It's like her voice changes with you. Like she's so belty, which she never is. But the two of you are belting.
It was true. It was true. She even commented on that herself. She said, "Sometimes you bring out the best in me."
Yeah, because she doesn't sound like herself. So we'll close with this clip, and then we will have another third night.
And read the donations afterward.
Yeah, we'll read donations afterwards.
Okay.
So here's Julie and you sounding fabulous.
No to the other guy.
Oh, it's so great.
That is the longest medley in history.
Oh my God, Leslie, I kept looking at it going like, surely it's not 9 minutes. And I kept going, is this true? How did you do it in one take?
I don't know how we did it in one take because it was so many songs in that, and you have to be precise in everything that you're doing. And I don't know how we did it, but we did it.
I kept thinking I was reading it wrong. I'm like, oh, must be 4 different. Like, nope, it's still going. Same outfit. Wow.
Right.
Okay, so take a look at the donations I mailed you right at the beginning of the show. We've got so much more, but see if you could read those at least. People love hearing their name, and they've all been so nice.
Well, I don't have a picture.
Do you have your phone though? Can you just read
have
them?
my phone. Okay, it said, but I don't have. Where's the name?
Email from me.
Okay.
Yes.
Boom,
There I
boom.
am.
Okay. Donations.
It's so funny.
And that's-
It's so funny.
someone wrote, "Be like Roots. Put Leslie on every night."
That's hilarious.
I'm trying to find.
I just emailed you like, I don't know, 10 minutes ago.
I know I've got the email, but I don't have any names. What the hell?
Oh no.
Oh Lord.
Well, I can read them for you and you can lip
You
sync.
read them for me and then I can make a comment, okay?
There you go.
Terry, the casting director, donated. Wait. Oh yeah, so Terry donated. Christina, but I don't know the amount. Christina donated $100. Thank you, Christina.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Sydney, $25.
Great.
Eileen, $20.
Great.
Jen with 2 N's, $50.
Okay.
Amy must be Jewish because she donated chai, which is $18. Thank you, Amy, for the chai. She wrote, "You are superheroes." And someone named Joe donated $25 and said, "My company matched my donation." Yes, we want matching donations.
That's wonderful. Yes, I heard you saying that, and that's a great thing if that could happen. And listen, just the fact that people are donating to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund is really spectacular. And I want people to know that NAACP.org, you can join. You don't have to be African American. It's all nationalities that are part of the NAACP. And there's things that if you go on the website that you can do if you want to volunteer for things and all like that. Because this way we all get together, and know different people. We have to get to know each other. We can't just wave at each other and say, "Oh, I have a white friend or I have a black friend." We've got to get together and talk about each other and talk to each other. That's how everything's going to change, is us talking to each other. I give you my experience and you give me your experience.
Yeah.
So well said. I love everything you're saying. And for all the people joking that Leslie should come back a third time, she actually is coming back a third time this Saturday.
That's right.
Live Spirit. So
Yeah.
2 p.m. on Saturday.
2 p.m. Saturday, Eastern.
Yeah.
That is. All right. So
Directed by Shelley.
Shelley
Yeah.
Glenn.
Fabulous, Shelley.
So great. So, but we'll have you back again though, because like I said, we got to have an Empire reunion. Glenn, you're amazing. We'll have a fantasy reunion as well, because I want to see some of those clips.
Yeah, we can get Peter to do that. He's so incredible. He's 94 years old, sharp as a tack.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Oh, I'd love that. All right.
He's got some stories, Remember, he was in the movies as well.
I read his book.
Yeah.
I read a book from back in the day. Oh, that would be fabulous. All right. So we're all going to be in touch. So guys, thank you for donating to the NAACP, the Legal Defense Fund. Glenn, so lovely seeing you. Leslie, you're the best.
Yes.
Thank you. And Danielle's still making you those cookies.
Oh,
Yes.
all right.
Gluten-free.
All right, we're going to put it in credits. All right, we'll see everyone. Thank you.
I'll play you out with the
Thank
Julia.
you. Be safe.
Yes,
Bye.
everybody. What were they doing? They were doing all that jazz at the end, right?